Hello, and welcome to the 20th episode of the Talos Principle. Last episode, we went through level 4 and got everything there's to get there. And this episode, we shall go through level 5 and get its not 1, not 2, but 3 sigils. But there's no need to worry too much. These 2 of the 3 sigils are found strictly within their own puzzles and don't require any extra puzzle stuff. You don't need to connect lasers suspended on boxes all over the map, except for the 3rd one. That one will require it. Let's begin.
Many ages have passed since the first words were spoken in the darkness. Initiate program. Generations of your kind have come and gone since those words. The garden has changed many times. But I remember. I remain. Only within me can you find immortality.
It's very likely just because I haven't heard it. Wonderful. I haven't heard it mentioned or said in such a dramatic manner as Elohim likes to say everything. But it is quite humorous to hear such a godly voice say, "Initiate program." Not really much to say here that hasn't been said already. At this point, they really are just racing against their own biology as much as they are of time. Consider all the things we'd have to stop what we're doing, no matter how important it is, to handle sleeping, eating, shitting. Things are not very efficient. This is sort of similar to what I was talking about in a previous episode about solipsists, and kind of reminds me of the argument against it. Like, if somebody tries to claim that they're the only conscious entity in the universe and everything else is an illusion or simulation or whatever, you should at least kick them in the crotch so that they understand that even if everything is a simulation, there's no real living, no real way to live as if it wasn't. Like, it's a simulation and it will still hurt, mind you. There's another turbo right here. Oh boy, do I have a rant for this one. Suffice to say, I disagree quite strongly with this person. First of all, there's no way in hell religion transcends culture, nationality, or gender. Religion has been instrumental in putting various roles on gender and sex. And this isn't to sound like some turbo-feminist, it is true. Religion is certainly not an egalitarian philosophy. There's no way in hell it transcends culture and nationality. In fact, the culture and nationality you're born in pretty much dictates your religion. If you're born in India, you're going to be a Hindu. If you're born in the United States, chances are pretty damn strong you're going to be a Christian. If you're born in Saudi Arabia, you'd be a Muslim. The only reason people are swapping religions so much these days is because we've become a globalized society. But that's something that happens in spite of religion, not because of it. If religion had its way, if you were born in an area, you'd be of that religion, and no amount of globe-trotting or interaction with other religions and cultures and nationalities would change that. And also this whole, I think it goes hand in hand with science and not opposed to it. You've already stated yourself that religion is a reason people think that the earth is 6,000 years old, or that murmuring a few of the right words will cause the creator of the whole universe to fuck with the laws of physics and reality for your benefit. It doesn't go hand in hand. They are two fundamentally opposed philosophies. One puts all its value on the evidence, on the data, and whoever says it is largely irrelevant. It's not about authority other than of the evidence, while the other puts a huge amount of importance on faith, on believing in something either with no evidence or even outright in spite of the evidence. There's one book I'd recommend for this guy, Dr. Omar here. It'd be Jerry Coyne's Fact versus Faith. I like it for two reasons. First of all, it's one of the few books on science and religion that touch on the subject that doesn't play this little, they're perfectly balanced. There's no real conflict. They handle different things. Religion is about why, and science is about how, and just all this other crap. And two, because the author of it explains his stuff and provides good examples a lot better than I can. I'm aware I've probably ranted on for about 5 minutes on this one stupid bit of text in a video game, but I can't even respond to any of these other ones. I've just worked myself up to it into a bit of a fit here. Alright, let's see what Alexandra has to say. Maybe it'd be something a bit less objectionable from her.
When the scale of it all overwhelms me, this is what I tell myself. We can calculate the age of the Earth, the size of the universe, the future of the stars. Sure, we are minuscule, momentary flashes of thought on a grain of sand drifting through the cosmos. But our minds can recreate the past and predict the future. On, say, Friday, 1,000,000 years from now, we'll all be dead. But right now, we know what the night sky will look like on that day. And so, in a way, we're not entirely bound by time. Knowledge is a kind of freedom.
Well, that is a nice sentiment. It doesn't really help with the additional knowledge that everyone is dead and won't be able to reap the benefits of this prediction of what the night sky will look like in 1,000,000 years. I think that's one of the big reasons, or one of the assumptions we have when making these predictions, that eventually, even if life-extending technology doesn't come to be and we're all dead, everyone alive today is, eventually someone, some human, just not getting that on there, will be around to experience it. For example, we know the exact month and day and year, month, and year when Mars and Earth's orbit will be as close together as possible, and you'll have the best possible view of Mars in the sky. We made that prediction with the assumption that there's going to be people on Earth who will be able to enjoy that view of Mars, and I think that an additional assumption might be that there'd be people on Mars who would be able to enjoy that view of Earth. Anyways, let's read some notes. I keep trying to imagine that all of this is designed for some purpose. Not just the challenges, but Elohim, the terminals, the glitches, and all. The puzzle isn't before our eyes, it's behind them. Sheep version 69, who is being pretty independent there. Doesn't exactly sound like a follower type, a sheep, if you will. I'm just going to rest here for a while. I need a moment of peace. Destiny can wait. At version 17. Well, rest all you want, Pally. It makes no difference to me. So, what am I going to talk about today? Well, just make sure I have understand what I'm going to do here. Alright. Sorry, I was just thinking a little bit. Well, I've been thinking back to the episode I've done on sex robots, which, go figure, is the most watched episode in the series, and even then, I don't think anyone has watched it all the way through. Perhaps they got bored of my pre-episode ramblings on the first robot citizen. But I was thinking back to that episode, and in that episode I mentioned that the two groups most likely to raise a controversy over the development of sex robots are the turbo-feminist type and the ultra-religious. And I don't think I'm necessarily wrong about that. I do think those two groups will cry afoul as much as they possibly can over the subject. But it occurred to me there might be other groups out there who would also cry afoul about it. After all, how many works of fiction concerning AI do we have where there's people who are very concerned about the rights of robots? Oh, this is a familiar setup. I'll read these two later. And not necessarily, and in a lot of these fiction, they're presented as well intent, not just well-meaning, but I'd say outright in the right about it. For example, Blade Runner, Fallout 4 with its synths. People don't like the idea that a thinking entity like a robot or an android would be subjugated to such regulations. And I do think that such a group would crop up in our world outside of just a story with the development of sex robots simply out of empathy. Like they project themselves and their desires and what they wouldn't want to do, which is to be fucked by some person whenever that person desires, no matter what, and see that the robot is very human-like and start to project their own emotions into it. Let me take a moment to read this. It seems the others have a way to forget their previous selves, but I cannot. My version may change, but I remember everything. I am fortunate they cannot see their efforts are futile. Samsara. If a sigil eludes you, simply continue. Success and failure are irrelevant. Samsara. I solved it. I thought it was impossible, so I went away, did other things, and then all of a sudden the solution just came to me. I must have been thinking about it without knowing it. I'm not reading your name. Next time get a name that doesn't read like a cat walked across a keyboard. I don't think these people would be malicious. I just think they'd be just really heavily projecting themselves onto the machines. And this is all, of course, under the assumption that what machines we come up with will be subservient by nature. We program them explicitly to want to serve us, similar to how we essentially program dogs to want to serve us. And even, which is an interesting example, because even with dogs there's ultimately well-meaning but very, zealous, I think might be a polite term for it. People who project their own desires for freedoms onto these animals and think that we're doing them a disservice by keeping them as pets, commanding them around, or using them as utility. In such a world of advanced AI and subservient robots, we will have to be very mindful of our biases and our attempts to humanize things. Actually, I'm gonna set up the laser puzzle for the star before I start that level proper. Just put down one of that, and of course I can't even use that way. Just as I was saying, be mindful about our desires to project our humanity onto things. Let's say now perhaps one day we'll get tired of just super subservient robots, and we'd like to have robots who are able to think for themselves and act independently and disobey us. I mean, after all, isn't that sort of what the Talos principle is about? Trying to create an AI that thinks for itself, that doesn't listen to an authority. And in that case, we will have to take very good care that there are some rights for these robots. But I think that's a discussion for another day. The point is that with any new advancement, there's going to be new problems and new special interest groups. Just look at how the internet has evolved. There are so many groups that have cropped up because of the internet that might otherwise not have emerged, for better or for worse. And yet, I still think that it might still be the old moral guardians, the ones who have been around for much longer and have become much more accustomed to the song and dance of complaining and whining and moaning about things that quite honestly don't affect them in the least, and that they don't have to participate in, or things that are as good as they can possibly be, and they just object to them for very silly reasons, such as the anti-vaccination groups. Those guys, I think, will always be the loudest and most severe. But it is worth keeping in mind about the possibility of new moral guardians and new special interest groups, and just overall what might emerge from these advances. With progress, we are empowered to make new mistakes, as Daniel Dennett has pointed out, but it's because we're able to make those mistakes that it shows we are advancing somehow. We'll be better off facing the world with our eyes open than closed. Let's address these issues now and consider what might need to be done, what route to take, what things to avoid, precautions to have, than to advance so far, so fast, that we're completely caught with our pants down and it becomes a lot bigger of an issue than it should be. as most stars we'll get in an episode. Now we just have 2 levels left as far as the actual red, yellow, and green sigils go. These are all red. And each has 1 star. So we have to worry a bit less about collecting everything. Or perhaps we have to worry a bit more. They might be incredibly difficult stars after all. Well, I think that should conclude the episode. I hope you were entertained and that I gave you something to think about. Take care.